I sat in the sun for 2 hours. Am I tan yet? Don't answer that question. Hey guys, it's me Leonie and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to do my May wrap up. I read a bunch of really good books this month, so let's get into it. The first book that I read in May was In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. This is a memoir about a girl named Yeonmi Park who was born in North Korea, and it's about her life in North Korea, about how she escaped to China and all the things that happened there, and then eventually how she came to South Korea where she lives now. Which is, of course, kind of a special thing because North Korea is a country that we barely know anything about because it's so isolated, which made this book just so incredibly interesting. I can't even really explain how impactful it was to read this book because it reads like a dystopian novel, but then you realize it's real, and that is so scary. I did not give this book a rating because I wouldn't know how to rate a story about a life that has actually happened, and it just feels weird for me to rate someone else's life. But I can say that I would highly recommend this book because it's such an important book. I think I learned so much from reading this. I think it's very readable even if you're not used to nonfiction. I will say that this book obviously touches on some very heavy subjects, so if you're not into really heavy subjects like violence and abuse and just general very violent imagery, then I would reconsider picking up this book, but otherwise I would highly recommend it. The next book I read was The Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman. This is the first book of her new trilogy that is set in Regency era London, and it's about this girl, Lady Helen, who finds out that she has the ability to see demons, and she is invited by the Dark Days Club to join them on their mission to defeat all these demons that are terrorizing London. I very much enjoyed myself while reading this book. I will start off by talking about the things that I didn't like. And the first thing is that this book was really slow, and I'm just someone that doesn't really enjoy slow books. It takes so long before the whole Dark Days Club is actually introduced, and I have to admit that at the end of the book, when I read the last few pages of the book, something happened that I wanted to have happened about 50 pages into the book. The entire book just felt like build-up, and at the end of the book I felt like we could finally start the story, but it was the end of the book. What I also missed while reading this book was a real villain and antagonist. I mean, of course there are the demons who are kind of the antagonists in the story, but I felt like this book really lacked the threat of a villain that was specifically targeting the Dark Days Club. So I never really felt like there was a personal threat for our main character Helen. So those were the things that I didn't really like. What I did, though, really like was, first off, that this book was set in Victorian era, Regency era London. I think if you don't really like Victorian era, then you're gonna be super bored while reading this book, but because I really loved reading about the Victorian era, I was still enjoying myself even though it was very slow, which brings me to my next point, and that is that the world building was so well done. Not only can you totally see how much research Alison Goodman put in this story, but also apart from the setting in a time period, the world of the Dark Days Club and these demons, it wasn't just your general, oh there's demons, we gotta defeat them. Well, no, it really is its own thing because it was so well thought out and complex. Another thing that I really liked about this book was kind of unexpected, and that is that it was really funny. It's this very prim and proper Victorian witty type of humor, and there was also just a lot of super fun banter between these characters, which brings me to the next thing that I really liked about this book, and that was the romance. It's very much in the background, like this book barely has any romance in it, but oh, I ship it. I just love slow burning romances. So the bottom line is that I am very excited for the next book in this series because this book really had a very good build-up, and I ended up giving it 3 stars. And the next book that I read was The Girl of Ink and Stars by Kiran Millwood Hargrave. This is the story about a cartographer's daughter who lives on the island of Joya, and she dreams of exploring the worlds of the maps that her father makes, but she's not allowed to go off the island. But then one day her best friend disappears into the Forbidden Territories, and she goes on this mission with an exploration team to explore the Forbidden Territories and find her best friend. I really enjoyed this book. This book just really ticked a lot of boxes for me because it has a very heavy theme of wanderlust and exploration, and it's about stars and maps. I love maps. It has these very weirdish magical elements. It's set in a parallel version of our own world, so it really felt like magical realism. And I also really appreciated the twist on the chosen one story that this book had. The negative thing about this book that I can say is that the characters are not very complex. I didn't really mind because this is the type of book where I'm just there for the beautiful storylines. But if you're someone that really wants complex characters in their story, then maybe this is not going to be the book for you. One thing that I didn't really like is that sometimes I felt like certain plot points were just left hanging. The romance felt a little bit out of place, and also the backstory of our main character's family was explained and then it never returned in the story. So sometimes I would kind of feel like, why are these things in the story? Because they never come into play again. I would highly recommend this book if you are in for a short magical book that is probably just like nothing you've ever read. And I ended up giving it 4 stars, but maybe more like 4.5 stars. I guess it's not quite 5 stars, but I really enjoyed this one. And then the last book that I read in May was Baker's Magic by Zahler. I know that Kate from Girl Reading read this book and absolutely loved it, and then Brit from Brit Reads also absolutely loved it. So I was super interested in this story. It's very underhyped. It has less than 100 ratings on Goodreads. And I honestly don't understand because this book was so great. So this is the story about a young orphan girl who steals a bun from a baker, and through like a twist of fate she ends up working at the bakery, and she finds out that she has magical powers that have to do with baking. The rest of the novel is just this huge adventure with princesses and pirates and magic and just overall badassery. I really like this book because it was just so much fun. Like seriously, I haven't had this much fun while reading a book since a very long time. I mean, yes, the characters were all pretty much huge stereotypes. I mean, you've got your stereotypical beautiful princess, your stereotypical huggable baker, your typical sassy pirate, your typical evil mage that is evil for no reason. But I didn't care because it was so much fun. I would highly recommend this if you're in a reading slump and just want to read a book that's gonna make you relive your childhood. One thing that Zahler did really well was ending almost each chapter with a plot twist. I just couldn't stop reading. The only thing that I did not like about this book and that made it lose a star for me is that I really didn't like the main character, B. I think she's supposed to be one of those like spunky, sassy young girls, but to me she just really came across as a very rude, immature, kind of annoying girl. Seriously, in the first chapter, the only things that she says are mean comments. It just happened multiple times in this book where she was complaining because something good happened to her friend, and I was just like, what? I did not like her. But all the other characters were so great. Just because I didn't like the main character, I didn't give it 5 stars. Otherwise, it would have been 5 stars. Thought it was great. I would highly recommend it to everyone. And those were all the 4 books that I read in the month of May. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books, and I will see you soon with another video. Goodbye! This is a story about a cartographer. Cartographer.